Yo, what's going on? Mike from Mike Talk Sports. So getting off of watching that Knicks-Celtics game where the Celtics suffered a pretty disappointing defeat to the Knicks, I was thinking to myself, damn, the Celtics seem to always have that historically great six-man dating back to John Havlicek. You had Bill Walton, and now they have Malcolm Brogdon. In my opinion, Malcolm Brogdon is the best player that comes off the bench in the entire National Basketball Association. And let me tell you guys why in today's video. So Malcolm Brogdon is one of those NBA players who I think we're going to look back in 20 years and say, wow, this guy had an extremely interesting story, an extremely interesting legacy. He goes from winning the Rookie of the Year to becoming a really good six-man. He's a really, really old Rookie of the Year winner as well. So let's get into his story a little bit. Dating back to his college days, he was in college for a while, for 5 years at Virginia. He played there for 4 years, and he was great in his last 2 years. In his last year at Virginia, he was an All-American first-team basketball player with an efficient 18 points per game. Since he was a little bit older and his ceiling, according to NBA experts and scouts, wasn't that high, he went in the second round, sixth pick of the 2016 draft to the Milwaukee Bucks, and right away, he was a very good impact player. I think right away, NBA scouts regretted not picking him in the first round and said, wow, this guy's floor is so damn high. And that's one of the points of this video, guys. His floor is so high. If his shot isn't going, which is rare, his shot is almost always going. He leads the league in three-point field goal percentage this year at 46%, which is absolutely phenomenal. He's such an efficient basketball player, but his floor was so high coming into the NBA. I feel as though these NBA scouts are so obsessed with the number attached to the age, these 18, 19, 20-year-olds, where you say, wow, I can just mold them. Their potential is endless. I can make them into the next great player. When in reality, you have to draft a guy with a solid floor so he can at the very least be a solid contributor to a championship team, which again, Malcolm Brogdon did right away in the NBA. He was phenomenal for the Bucks. Hell, he was too good for the Bucks. He was too good to the point where once his contract expired, this is the danger of picking a guy in the second round. If he ends up doing really good, his contract expires extremely quickly, and you're going to have to pay him even sooner than you would have to pay a really good first round pick. So the Bucks said, damn, we can't even pay you, man. We have Khris Middleton on the books. He's about to get paid big time. So they said we can either basically pay Malcolm Brogdon $85 million over 4 years, or we can pay Khris Middleton $178 million over 5 years. It was a real debate within the organization what they were going to do. They ended up picking Khris Middleton. They ended up winning a championship because of that. But man, I think Malcolm Brogdon instead of Jrue Holiday on that championship team still would have won them that championship. That's how good I think Malcolm Brogdon is, because I love Jrue Holiday. I think Jrue Holiday is the best perimeter defender in the NBA, so that's a very generous comparison I'm making between the two of them. They are very similar basketball players, and the Bucks kind of said, we can get a similar player to him. We just can't let Khris Middleton walk for nothing. So the Bucks ended up moving him to the Indiana Pacers, where he was an extremely good basketball player. He went from that kind of bench role player to one of the best players on a solid team. So Malcolm Brogdon really increased the floor of this Pacers team. And I think the Pacers finally said, we're not that good. We're wasting this kid's career. We need to move him to a really good organization where he can win now and where this team could rebuild. Because in reality, when you have Malcolm Brogdon on your team, a hyper efficient basketball player who's going to offer such a high floor on a night-to-night basis, play incredible defense, play really efficient offensive basketball. Something I love about his offensive game, and this really stood out in the Knicks-Celtics game last night, and this just stands out every single time Malcolm Brogdon plays, is he's so decisive with the basketball. It seems as though every time the ball enters his hands, he either passes it immediately, drives immediately for a really nice layup, or shoots the ball immediately. It never seems as though Malcolm Brogdon is thinking out there. He's such an instinctual, high IQ basketball player. He's so decisive with the basketball. It really keeps the defense on their toes. So again, the Pacers basically sat him down and said, let's work out a trade. We love you. You love this organization, but let's sort out a trade. Maybe you can come here at the end of your career when we're better. But as of right now, our timelines just aren't matching. This is a direct quote I took from Malcolm Brogdon from a quote he had at the time he got traded. He said, and I quote, Indiana really gave me a choice. They did right by me. I'll never forget that. That's the type of move from the Indiana Pacers that players and especially NBA agents really remember and say, hey man, to their client, to their player client, hey man, this Indiana Pacers team, no matter what, no matter if they're good or bad, they're going to do right by you. So I want my client to sign with this team. Really great, honorable move by the Pacers. And again, Malcolm Brogdon, such a nice guy, such a well-articulated, smart guy. He's really going to appreciate the thought and idea behind that move that the Indiana Pacers did. And he said, you know what, let me play with the Boston Celtics. This is a team who were just in the finals last year. I really like Marcus Smart, but I feel as though they're one point guard away from winning a championship, one really high-end offensive player who gives you a high ceiling in terms of his defensive output as well. I feel like I am the missing piece for this Celtics championship team, and I think he's absolutely right. I think the Celtics not only are favorites coming out of the East this year, but I think they can even be considered favorites to win the NBA championship, in large part due to Malcolm Brogdon being the best sixth man in basketball this year. This year's been absolutely phenomenal. I've already alluded to it. He's the best three-point shooter in the NBA this year per percentages. He's averaging 4.5 attempts per game, so it's a solid sample size as well. It's absolutely phenomenal. Again, his defense offers 1 through 3 switchability. He has the perfect modern NBA frame at 6'5", 230 pounds. 230 pounds at 6'5". Man, you're not getting pushed around out there. You're not getting bullied around there. You're doing the bullying yourself. You're going to be able to, with that weight, with that solid mass, you're going to be able to put your shoulder down and really bang down low, get really nice layup opportunities. That's why he's so good around the rim. He really uses his body and leverage to his advantage. So this year he's averaging 15 points per game, 4 assists per game, and 4 rebounds per game. Again, all around really good player on 49% from the field. Again, very, very efficient. So comparing him to some of the other bench players and why I think he's better than every other bench player in the NBA and why I think he can even be a really good starter on a really good team. I do like this bench role, though. I think it's smart that he comes off the bench. He's a great spark for this Celtics second unit, and he plays really good with the starters as well. But comparing him to some other bench players, we had a guy who played really good in this Knicks game, Immanuel Quickley. Immanuel Quickley is very good as well. I just feel as though Malcolm Brogdon is a much better defender and offers a higher floor as an offensive player on a night-to-night basis. You have Norman Powell, kind of the same deal. I really like Norman Powell as well. I just feel as though Malcolm Brogdon is, again, a better defender and has a higher floor as an offensive player. Tyrese Maxey is very good as well. Same thing, better defender Malcolm Brogdon is, and he has a higher floor as an offensive player. Russell Westbrook, you know, I like Russell Westbrook. He's been pretty good this year, but again, the floor, the spacing, it's just so much better from Malcolm Brogdon than Russell Westbrook. And then you got a guy like Malik Monk, who I loved on the Lakers last year. He's been really good this year as well. Again, it's the floor. Malcolm Brogdon has such a high floor from a night-to-night basis. He's a phenomenal basketball player. I think he's going to have a huge, huge impact in the Celtics run to the finals this year.